What is up, gamers? This video is sponsored by 50 Cards, and they are celebrating their 5th year anniversary this Friday. One of the big things we are doing is we are selling a bunch of different decks on his website. All of the premium decks back in September are having a rerun. Some of them have changed a bit, but they are mostly the same, and Mega Colony and Dark Irregulars are also on there now, so every clan will be represented in this. I don't have time to make a video on the Vanguard decks because I'm doing the Shadowverse decks. All of the decks I will be showing here will be on sale on 50 Cards' website this Friday. If you use discount code FLARE, you can get 5% off any order, but during this small period of time, the code will be 10% off for singles, which he's going to have a lot of singles on his website. So all links to it down in the description below. And with that being said, let's talk about some Shadowverse decks. Forestcraft is a class about bouncing and playing small cost creatures, and comboing by playing a certain amount of cards per turn. This deck's boss follower is Cosmos Fang. When played, you can add any beast follower from your deck to your hand, but if it costs 2 play points or less, then it can be put in play instead. Then it can evolve for 1 play point, and bouncing one of your followers back into hand. When it does evolve, it bounces an opponent's follower back to their hand, but if it targets an evolved follower, it gets destroyed instead. In order to make full use of Cosmos Fang's effects, we need some low-cost beast followers. There are 2 primary options in this deck. Slayed Blossoming Wolf is a 2/2 that can evolve for free if you bounce the card on your board that turn. When it evolves, it becomes a 3/3 that draws a card. Both sides have the effect that if they are bounced, you can play a 2-cost or lower Forestcraft follower from your hand for free. The other option is Bear, which is a 2/2 that heals your leader 1 defense every time you bounce a card back to hand. It can also evolve for 1 play point to become a 3/3 and searches for Floral Breeze from your deck. Floral Breeze is a 1-cost spell that bounces one of your cards and heals your leader's defense by 1. For some other bouncing effects, we have Nature's Guidance, which is the primary bouncing spell in this deck, which will bounce any card on your field back to your hand, and then you draw a card for just 1 play point. And then there's also Ancient Elf, which is a 2 play point 2/2 ward, and it has a fanfare ability that bounces a card on your board back to your hand, and it gets +1/+1. You can pay 1 to evolve it, and on evolve it has the same exact ability to bounce something on your board, and it gets +1/+1. So it becomes a 5/5 void that bounces 2 cards on your board for 3 play points. Now that we have our bouncing package, let's take a look at some of the payoffs for this deck. Elfchild May has a fanfare ability that deals 1 damage to an enemy follower and does the same thing when it is bounced to the hand. Harvest Festival, whenever it leaves the field, draws a card. It can also sack itself to heal 1 defense from your leader. Taiki Shuttle deals 2 damage to a follower when it is bounced, and Silverbolt is a 7 play point quick play spell that deals damage to a follower or leader equal to the number of cards in your hand. Since this deck is bouncing so much, the hand will typically be at a healthy number. But the biggest payoff for the deck is Rhinoceroach. It is a 1/1 rush that on fanfare gets +1 attack for every other card you played this turn. It can evolve for 0 play points and be able to do one of 2 things. It can get Storm, or it can deal damage to a follower equal to its attack. This deck can get a large burst of damage from all the bouncing and replaying of cards. This deck is a self-sufficient engine that looks to keep outvaluing the opponent through all its draw abilities. It also uses ways to remove threats from the opponent's board and keep control of the game. And then it utilizes the big burst from Rhinoceroach to close out a game. Swordcraft looks to create a board presence and keep it throughout the game. It has a plethora of ways to swarm the board and lots of tutoring effects to find the followers they need. This build is based around the heroic archetype. The boss follower is Valiant Fencer. It is a 3 play point 2/2 that on fanfare can tutor any heroic card that isn't Valiant Fencer. It can evolve for 1 play point if you have 2 or less cards in your hand. When it evolves, it can evolve another heroic follower on your board for free. So to make full use of Valiant Fencer, we need all the heroic followers that we can get. First is Ironrot Defender, which is a 1 play point 2/2 with the fanfare ability to get +0/+1 and ward if they are 2 or more heroic cards in your cemetery. There's also Ameo Spear Knight, which is a 2 play point 2/2 with strike. If you have another heroic follower in play, it gets +1/+1. It can evolve for 3 play points to become a 3/3, and it revives a heroic follower in your cemetery. When combined with Valiant Fencer though, you can get the evolve for free and get the revive effect without spending the 3 play points to evolve it. There's also Mock Knight as the last heroic follower, a 3 play point 3/3 that gets Storm when played from anywhere but your hand. It can evolve for 1 play point, which will deal 2 damage to a follower, but if your cemetery has 2 or more heroic cards, it deals 4 instead. And then the last heroic card is a spell card called Heroic Entry. For 3 play points, you can check the top 4 cards of your deck and play a 3 play point or less Swordcraft follower. If it's a heroic follower, it gets +1/+1 as well. This whole heroic engine brings in a very consistent aggro package with a great payoff the more you see. The rest of the build is either to find more heroic cards or be cheap cards to reach the evolve condition of Valiant Fencer. The primary 4-drop in this deck is Amelia. It is a fantastic 4 play point follower that can either deal 4 damage to a follower or lets you play a 3 play point follower or less from your hand for free. It helps swarm the board while also lowering the hand count to get Fencer's evolve condition live. Leonidas is always a strong bomb for any Swordcraft deck in the late game. It can clear 2 followers by itself or 1 really big follower. It also creates a Leonidas's Resolve amulet that gives +3/+3 to followers played. It gives the Swarm deck an insane late game win condition. And then there's also Albert Levin Saber, which is a 4 play point 3/5 with Storm. It can evolve for 3 play points, and when it does, it can't take combat damage for the rest of the turn, and it can attack a second time per turn. So Albert gives a 6 damage burst to the opponent's leader, but if it's combined with Leonidas's Resolve, it will swing for 12 damage instead. Heroic is built to swarm the board early and keep the pressure up throughout the game. It has easy ways to rebuild even after its followers are destroyed. Runecraft is all about spells. It has various effects that grow stronger the more spells you have used throughout the game. The deck I will be talking about, however, is the chess deck, which plays slightly differently from most Runecraft decks. The boss follower of the deck is Mystic King. It is a 6 play point 5/5 with an activated ability every turn to sacrifice a chess follower to deal 5 damage to the opponent's follower. Then for spending 2 play points to evolve it, it becomes a 6/6 and then you revive 4 chess followers with different names and cost 4 less from your cemetery, which is an insane late game win condition to swarm the board. One of the prime revive targets is Milady Mystic Queen. It is a 4 play point 2/2 with Fanfare, summon a magical pawn token, and you put a magical pawn token into your EX area. For paying 1 to evolve it, it becomes a 3/3 and deals damage equal to the number of chess followers you have in play. It's really good at fueling Mystic King throughout future turns. Magical Knight is a 3 play point 3/3 that gets +1 attack every time another chess follower is played on your field. For 1 play point, it can evolve to a 4/4 that also summons a magical pawn token. These 3 pieces can all easily start clearing away at the opponent's board every turn and keep up momentum. Utilizing all of the follower damage effects is able to keep the board intact and keep up tempo while slowing down the opponent. Magical Bishop is a 2 play point 1/2 that summons a magical pawn token on Fanfare. During your end phase, it will also heal your leader 1 defense and deal 1 damage to the opponent's leader. And then the last chess piece is Magical Rook, which is a 1 play point 2/2 that can get +1 defense and ward if you have a magical pawn token in your EX area. That's all for the chess followers, but they also have 3 spells to go with it. Blitz is a 1 play point spell that deals 2 damage plus the amount of magical pawn tokens you have in play to an enemy follower. Magical Strategy is another 1 play point spell that summons a magical pawn token. And then the last one is Check, a 3 play point spell that deals 4 damage to an enemy follower. Then you check top 3 and add a chess card that isn't check to your hand. The rest of the deck is filled with extra consistency and quick speed removal options. This deck plays as a control deck that has the ability to swarm in the later stage of the game and does a really good job at dominating board presence through all of the removal that the top end chess pieces have. Next up is Dragoncraft. Dragoncraft is all about ramping and getting big creatures and spells on the board as fast as possible. The boss follower of this deck is the Jabberwock, a 7 play point 7/7. On Fanfare, you put another follower on any board to the cemetery. Then you reveal cards from your deck till you reveal a follower that costs less play points than the card sent to the cemetery. Once you do, then you play it for free. To fully utilize Jabberwock, it can be a removal card on the opponent's board while still giving you a follower in play. It can also remove one of your own followers to find a new follower to take its place. The 2 big cost cards in this deck are Genesis Dragon, which is a simple 9 play point 10/12 with Storm, and Hishi Akabono, which is a 10 play point 10/10 that heals your leader 10 defense. The other win con in this deck is Dark Dragoon Forte, a 4 play point 5/1 with Storm, and it can evolve for 2 play points to become a 7/3 and have Aura. So between Genesis Dragon and Forte, this deck has a ton of burst damage to be able to close out a game later on. And then Hishi Akabono is a way to heal defense from your leader in order to stay in the game longer. This deck's primary ramp is Isla Dragonite, a 3 play point 3/2 with a sail, and Last Whisper gain 1 maximum play point. Now, for veteran players, before you keyboard warrior me about no Dragon Oracle, let me explain. Dragon Oracle is a 2 play point spell that increases your maximum play points by 1, but can also cycle itself. That is not in this deck because it was a starter deck exclusive, and 50 cards doesn't have enough to sell. The other option was to buy them completely out on the market and force the price up on the card, but we aren't going to do that. So that is why Dragon Oracle is not in here. If you do pick up this deck, then try to get Dragon Oracle as fast as you can. One of the ways this deck can get to its high play point cards is to remove threats on the board. Blazing Breath and Serpent Wrath are quick speed spells that deal damage to followers. Conflagration is a 5 play point spell that deals 5 damage to every follower. The rest of the deck is a discard package to try to help dig further down in the deck for the pieces you need. This deck looks to control the board in the early game and stall till it starts outvaluing the opponent by slamming big followers every turn. Abysscraft is about sacrificing life and followers to gain stronger effects. This build's boss follower is Odile Black Swan, a 5 play point 6/4 with fanfare, deal 2 damage to all enemy leaders and followers. Then it has Neko Charge 20, it gets Storm. On strike, it deals 2 damage to the enemy leader and all enemy followers again. So if you have the Neko Charge 20 active, then you will deal 10 damage to the opposing leader and 4 damage to all their followers. The rest of the deck looks to fuel the Neko Charge and have alternative value engines with it. Path to Purgatory is a neutral amulet that works really well in this class. On fanfare, you draw 3 cards and deal 3 damage to your leader. At the start of your end phase, if your leader has 6 defense or less, then you can engage it and put it into your cemetery, and then it deals 6 damage to each enemy follower. Punk Devil is a strong card that can recover defense for your leader, but it can also gain Bane to deal with big threats. Seeking the Pearl, Fine Motion, and Rice Shower all mill cards from your deck as well to help fuel the Neko Charge. This deck only plays 5 non-followers, so milling followers is very likely through these effects. Righteous Devil is a crazy card in combination with all the built-in removal for this deck. Every time an enemy follower is destroyed, it deals 1 damage to that follower's leader, and you heal 1 defense. The early to mid game is spent removing threats with Devilish Flautist, Maruzen Sky, Nice Nature, and Cerberus. And then the late game will be using Odile and a big damage burst. Dark Alice has a constant reviving board presence, and Azazel to break through healthy leaders. This deck is built to mill as fast as possible to go through the deck quickly, and then close out the game through constant bombs that are high value followers that get stronger the longer the game goes on. The last class is Havencraft. Havencraft is all about amulets and healing your leader's defense. This deck will be a faster variant called Woodhaven. This deck's boss follower is Diamond Master, a 4 play point 2/5 that can give itself Storm or Wood. It also forces the opponent to target it with abilities. For paying 3 to evolve it, it becomes a 4/7 and revives a 3 play point or less follower with Storm or Ward from your cemetery. This build primarily focuses on the Ward side, but there are Storm cards as well. The early game consists of playing out cheap cards and having ways to buff them. Bejeweled Shrine, Amethyst Lion, and Aoi all buff other followers. Snow White is a repeatable ward the deck can use. A 2 play point 2/2 that can resummon itself as a 3/3. When Diamond Master resummons it, it can come back as a 3/3 again. Ruby Falcon is one of the big payoffs for this deck. It's a 3 play point 3/3 with Ward, and it can give itself Storm. Whenever a different Storm or Ward follower attacks, it deals 1 damage to each enemy leader as well. It evolves for 1 play point to become a 4/4, and on evolve it deals 2 damage to an enemy follower. This is a really big payoff for this deck, where if you are able to summon a bunch of Storm and have a bunch of Ward followers in play, then you can keep pinging 1 damage to the opponent's face and close out the game very quickly through that. Beast Call Arya, Pinion Prayer, and Birdkeeping Disciple can all summon Holy Falcon tokens, which are 2/2 Storms to help deal extra bits of burst damage. And then for the top end of this deck, we have John the Arc, which helps deal with wide boards the opponent's build. Megiro McQueen, which can sack one of your amulets and deal 3 damage to an enemy leader or follower. Megiro McQueen can also evolve for 1 play point and can add an amulet from your cemetery to your hand. The last card is Moon Almirage as a 5-cost 4/5 with Storm. If it strikes a follower, it gets +2 attack, and at the end of each of your turns, it heals 2 defense. So this can either be a 4 damage burst, or you can have it swing at an enemy follower and have it be stronger for the next turn to swing more damage at the opponent. And then since we're playing so many wards in this deck, we're going to be able to protect this Moon Almirage each turn, unless if the opponent has a ton of removal in their hand. Woodhaven is a fast aggro deck that tries to get to a fast start, and it makes it hard to hit back against it because there are so many wards forcing trades to happen. It is the cheapest deck from the bunch, but one of the strongest ones for sure. And that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, 50 Cards will have all these decks on his website Friday the 29th, where you can buy them directly. If you use discount code FLARE, you get 5% off, and you also support me in the channel. And if you want to see more Shadowverse content, then let me know. I've been starting to slowly dabble in it, and I've been really enjoying the game. So if there is more interest on it, please let me know. And yeah, anyway, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one.